Kiana Wells stood trembling in Iron Vale's courthouse, her swollen belly tight with fear, voice breaking as she begged Judge Voss for mercy. The theft charge was a lie, her hospital job stolen by his sneer. His smirk cut deeper than the gavel's crack. Guilty. 5 years. Her knees buckled, baby kicking wildly, but Marcus Tate, her lawyer, whispered something sharp. The crowd hushed, eyes wide. Voss's glare burned. What secret could break this judge's grip on justice? Before this story unfolds, let me know where you're watching from. And if you stand for truth, hit like and subscribe because tomorrow's episode will blow your mind. Kiana Wells stumbled out of the Iron Vale courthouse, her pulse hammering like a drum in her ears, the weight of 5 years behind bars crushing her chest. Her hands cradled her belly, 7 months heavy with her unborn son, as she fought the nausea rising from Judge Voss's smirk. That gavel's crack still echoed, a thief stealing her future, her job, her baby's first breath in freedom. She glanced back at the marble steps, half expecting Voss to loom there, his pale eyes glinting with victory, but only Marcus Tate followed, his loafers clicking fast. He grabbed her elbow, steering her toward a rusted door marked "Staff Only," his whisper from the courtroom still burning in her mind. Whatever he knew, it had to be big enough to crack Voss's throne. The door groaned open to a basement hallway, flickering bulbs casting shadows like claws on the concrete walls. Kiana's sneakers squeaked, her breath shallow, every step. A fight against the panic clawing her spine. Marcus shut the door, his face tight, sweat beading on his brown skin despite the chill. He leaned close, voice low, each word a blade. Voss wasn't just a judge, he said. He was a puppet master, pulling strings to bury Kiana because she dared poke his family's secrets. At the hospital, where she'd slung 12-hour shifts as a nurse, Kiana had spotted drugs vanishing. Morphine, oxycodone, gone like smoke. She'd reported it, thinking it was some low-life orderly, but the trail led to Voss's nephew, Travis, a pharmacist with a side hustle in black market pills. Voss knew she'd blown the whistle, Marcus said, and that theft charge was his payback, cooked up to silence her before she dug deeper. Kiana's knees wobbled, the air too thick to breathe. She'd trusted the system, believed truth would shield her, but Voss had twisted it into a noose. Her fingers tightened on her belly, her son's kick a faint pulse against the dread. Marcus pulled a crumpled paper from his jacket, a hospital. Log with Travis's name circled in red, timestamps showing drugs checked out but never delivered. It was partial proof, he said, enough to start an appeal, maybe sway a new judge if they moved fast. Kiana stared at the ink, her mind racing. A lifeline, thin as thread, but something to grip. She nodded, jaw set, her nurse's grit kicking. In. She'd fight for her boy, for the life Voss wanted to burn. Marcus mapped it out, his voice steady but urgent. They'd file by dawn, demand a hearing, and lean on the log to poke holes in the theft charge. He'd call a contact at the state. Bar someone clean to sniff out Voss's dirt. Kiana listened, her hope flickering, fragile but alive. She saw herself back at work, her son in her arms, the courtroom a bad dream. Marcus handed her the log's copy, his eyes flicking to the hallway's end, where a janitor's mop slapped. The floor too slow, like he was listening. Time to move, he muttered, pushing her toward a side exit. Kiana clutched the paper, its edges biting her palm, and stepped into the dusk, Iron Vale's humid air wrapping her like a shroud. She took a bus, not her car, paranoia prickling her neck. Voss's reach felt endless, his smirk a promise of worse to come. The bus lurched through Iron Vale's fringes, past red-lined blocks where black families like hers scraped by under the town's boot. She got off 3 streets early, weaving through alleys to her apartment, a cramped 1-bedroom above a laundromat. Her key turned, but the door felt wrong, too loose, like someone had jimmied it. She froze, heart slamming, then pushed inside, her breath catching at the chaos. Her home was gutted. Couch cushions slashed, stuffing spilling like snow, kitchen drawers yanked out, forks and spoons glinting on the linoleum. Her son's tiny clothes, folded for months, lay torn across the floor, blue onesies ripped at the seams. Kiana's chest heaved, her eyes stinging as she stepped over shattered plates to her bedroom. The ultrasound photos, her baby's first blurry shape, were pinned to the wall, each one shredded jagged cuts where his face should be. And there, carved into the drywall deep enough to scar the studs, was the word, nigger, its letters jagged. A blade's cruel work. Kiana sank to her knees, a sob choking her, her hands shaking as she touched the ruined photos. This wasn't random. Voss's hand was here, his smirk alive in every slash. Her baby, not even born, was a target because of her skin, her fight, her breath in his town. She forced herself up, grabbing her phone, but her fingers froze as headlights swept the street below. A cop car idled, its engine a low growl, no sirens, just watching. Kiana ducked, pulse roaring, and crawled to the window's edge. The cruiser's dome light flicked on, showing two officers, one pointing at her building, his lips curling like he'd tasted victory. She backed away, stuffing the log copy into her bra, her only weapon now. The stairs creaked outside, someone climbing, slow, deliberate. Kiana bolted for the fire escape, her belly slowing her but fear driving her legs. She hit the alley, gravel, crunching underfoot, and ran, the cop car's engine revving behind her. Ironvale's streets blurred, sodium lights smearing like ghosts, as she zigzagged through backyards, over fences, her breath ragged but relentless. She didn't know where to go. Marcus's office was too far, her sister's place a risk, but stopping wasn't an option. Voss had marked her, and his dogs were loose. Kiana ducked behind a dumpster, its stink sharp, her hands shielding her son as the cruiser prowled past, its spotlight slicing the dark. She waited, lungs burning, until its taillights faded, then slumped, tears mixing with sweat. The log pressed against her chest, a reminder of Marcus's plan, but the carved word burned brighter, a vow of war. Voss thought he'd broken her, thought a black woman would fold under his gavel. He was wrong. She'd fight, claw, bleed for her boys tomorrow, but the cop car's hum lingered in her ears, a promise that Voss's next move would cut deeper. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, a text from an unknown number. Just 4 words, "You can't hide forever." Kiana's grip tightened, her jaw clenching as she powered it off. She didn't know how they'd found her number, didn't know who they even were, cops, Voss's goons, or worse. But she knew one thing: the hospital held answers. Elaine Holt, her supervisor, had seen the drug thefts, maybe even Voss's nephew up close. If Kiana could get her to talk, to stand up, they could gut Voss's lie. She rose, her son's kick a spark in her veins, and slipped into the night, Ironvale's shadows swallowing her whole. Kiana Wells slipped through Ironvale's dawn shadows, her sneakers scuffing cracked sidewalks, her belly heavy with 7 months of hope and fear. The hospital log, crumpled against her chest, was her only shield after last night's wreckage, her. Apartment gutted, her son's ultrasound photos shredded, that vile slur carved into her wall like a brand. Judge Voss's smirk haunted her, his reach a noose tightening with every step. She'd run from the cops' headlights, their silent cruiser stalking her through alleys. But running wasn't enough. She needed muscle, someone to stand with her against Voss's lies, and Elaine Holt, her supervisor at Ironvale General, was her best shot. Elaine had seen the drug thefts, maybe even Voss's nephew, Travis, slipping pills into shadows. If Kiana could get her to talk, to sign a statement, Marcus's appeal might crack the judge's throne. But the hospital loomed ahead, its glass, doors glinting like a trap, and Kiana's pulse thudded, warning her nothing came easy in Voss's town. She tugged her hoodie low, hiding her face, and slipped past the ER's buzz, where paramedics barked orders and gurneys rattled. Her nurse's badge was long gone, revoked after the theft charge, but she knew the back halls, the stairwells where cameras blinked blind. Her breath hitched, her son's kick a quiet drum against her ribs, urging her on. The break room was on 3, a beige box of vending machines and burnt coffee where she'd once laughed with Elaine over shift horror stories. Kiana climbed, her legs burning, each step a gamble that Elaine hadn't turned like the rest of Ironvale. She pushed the door open, the hum of a fridge greeting her, and there was Elaine, flipping through a chart, her grey bun tight as her frown. Kiana stepped forward, voice low, her hands open like a plea. She didn't waste time. Voss's frame-up, the stolen drugs, Travis's name on the log. She begged Elaine to testify, to tell the court what she'd seen, how the pharmacy's stock shrank under Travis's watch. Elaine's eyes softened, her lips parting as Kiana's words hit, her fingers brushing the cross necklace she always wore. She nodded, slow, like she'd carried the truth too long. Kiana's chest loosened, a spark of hope flaring. Elaine led her to a file cabinet, its drawers squealing as they yanked out shift logs, yellowed pages with Travis's initials scrawled next to missing morphine vials. Each sheet was a brick in Kiana's defense, proof Voss's nephew was dirty, proof the theft charge was a lie to bury her whistleblowing. Kiana's fingers trembled, clutching the pages, her son's future suddenly sharper, closer. Elaine's phone buzzed, a sharp chirp cutting the air. She glanced at it, her face tightening. Anne stepped into the hall, muttering about a call from admin. Kiana stayed, sorting logs, her mind racing with visions of Marcus waving these in court, Voss's smirk crumbling. Minutes ticked, too many, and the break room's air grew thick, like the calm before a storm. Footsteps echoed, heavy, not Elaine's. Clipped heels but boots, deliberate, closing in. Kiana froze, the logs slipping in her grip as the door banged open. 3 security guards filled the frame, their radios crackling, batons tapping their palms. Trespassing, they barked, their eyes hard, one smirking like he'd caught a prize. Kiana backed up, her belly brushing the table, her voice rising, "Where's Elaine?" Elaine stepped in, her face a mask, no trace of the warmth from minutes ago. She admitted it, voice flat. She'd called security. Voss had gotten to her, threatened her pension, her daughter's job at the county clerk. She couldn't risk it, not for Kiana, not for truth. Kiana's stomach lurched, betrayal cutting deeper than the gavel's crack. She'd trusted Elaine, poured her heart out, and now those logs, her lifeline, felt like ash. The guards lunged, their hands rough, but Kiana twisted, her nurse's reflexes sharp, dodging a grab. She clutched the logs, bolting for the door, Elaine's cross necklace glinting like a lie as Kiana shoved past. The hall blurred, alarms shrieking, her sneakers pounding tile. She hit the stairwell, guards shouting behind, their radios spitting. Orders. Voss's name crackled through the static, his voice a ghost in their words. Detain her indefinitely. Kiana's breath burned, her son's weight slowing her, but fear drove her legs, down 3 flights, out a loading dock where trash, bins stank of bleach. She ducked behind a pallet, heart slamming, as boots thumped past, radios fading into the dawn. The logs were still hers, creased but intact, and she stuffed them into her jacket, her mind reeling. Elaine's stab wasn't just personal, it was Voss's fist smashing her hope, proving his grip choked every corner of Ironvale. Kiana crouched, sweat stinging her eyes, the hospital's hum a cruel reminder of her old life, charts, patience, purpose, stolen by a judge who saw her skin and nothing else. She'd come for an ally, found a traitor, and now Voss's orders echoed in her skull. Indefinite detention. No cell, no trial, just a void where black women like her vanished. Her son kicked, hard, like he knew the stakes, and Kiana's jaw clenched, her nurse's steel rising. She'd get to Marcus, get these logs to court, but Voss's shadow was everywhere, and his next swing would be worse. She slipped into the street, Ironvale's dawn cold against her skin, wondering who else wore a friend's face and Voss's leash. Would Marcus still be there, or had Voss turned him too? Drop a comment with number 1 if you've ever felt betrayed by someone you trusted. Then hit like and subscribe to see Kiana fight back against this snake pit of lies. Can she trust anyone when a judge like Voss pulls every string? Drop a comment with number 1 if you're rooting for her to burn this system down, and smash that like button to keep up with her battle, because this story's about to twist harder. Who's really on Kiana's side when even allies turn traitor? Kiana Wells sprinted through Ironvale's morning haze, her lungs burning, the hospital's alarms still ringing in her ears like a death knell. Her hands clutched the stolen shift logs, their edges digging into her palms, proof that Voss's nephew Travis had bled the pharmacy dry. Elaine's betrayal, her cold eyes as she called security, cut deeper than the guards' batons might have. But Kiana had escaped, her son's kicks urging her on. 7 months pregnant, she was slower, heavier. But her nurse's grit pushed her past crumbling stoops and rusted fences toward Marcus Tate's law office. He was her last anchor, the only one who'd whispered hope against Voss's gavel. And those logs could fuel his bombshell, whatever it was. But Ironvale's streets felt alive, every shadow a cop, every glint a blade. Voss's smirk chasing her like a curse. The office sat in a strip mall, its sign faded, blinds crooked, a far cry from the courthouse's marble. Kiana slipped inside, her sneakers squeaking on scuffed tile, the air thick with coffee and ink. Marcus was there, hunched over a laptop, his tie loose, eyes bloodshot like he hadn't slept since her trial. She locked the door behind her, breath ragged, and spilled it all. Elaine's promise, the logs, the guard's orders to lock her away forever. Marcus's jaw tightened, his fingers drumming the desk, but he didn't flinch. He took the logs, scanning Travis's initials. The missing morphine tallied like a confession. Voss had framed her, he said, to bury her whistleblowing, and these papers were a crack in his armor, but they needed more, something to blow the case wide open. He pulled a USB drive from his drawer, his voice dropping low like the walls might listen. He'd gotten a recording, he said, a cop bragging about planting the theft evidence. Voss's orders clear as day. Kiana's pulse spiked, her hope clawing back from the pit Elaine had kicked it into. The cop's voice hissed through Marcus's, laptop smug, spitting her name like it tasted foul, boasting how Voss paid him $2,000 to slip a vial into her locker. Kiana's hands shook, her son's weight grounding her as she pictured that vial, the lie that stole her job, her freedom. Marcus leaned closer, his eyes fierce. They'd file an emergency appeal, use the logs and tape to demand bail. Maybe. A new judge. It wasn't enough to topple Voss, not yet, but it could get her out, give her time to fight. Kiana nodded, her nurse's steel hardening. She saw her son's face, not just an ultrasound blur, but real, alive, free. Marcus typed fast, drafting motions, his printer humming as it spat out forms. They worked through the morning, Kiana proofing pages, her belly pressed against the desk's edge, every cramp a reminder of time slipping away. By noon, Marcus sent the appeal to a state clerk he trusted, a woman outside Voss's grip. Hours. Crawled, Kiana pacing, her sneakers carving grooves in the tile until Marcus's phone pinged. A new judge, Clara Holt, no relation to Elaine, had seen the tape, the logs, and granted bail. $10,000 payable by sundown. Kiana's breath caught, tears pricking her eyes. She hugged Marcus, her arms tight, his cologne sharp, against her relief. She was going home, not to her ruined apartment, but to her sister Nia's place, a lifeline until the appeal hearing. Marcus wired the bail from a client fund, promising she'd pay it back when this was over. Kiana left the office, dusk painting Ironvale's sky bruise purple, her steps lighter despite the weight in her belly. Nia's house was 10 miles out, a squat rancher in a black neighborhood Voss's red lines hadn't yet crushed. Kiana took a cab, not trusting buses, her eyes scanning every car for blue lights. Nia met her at the door, her braids swinging, pulling Kiana into a hug that smelled of cocoa butter and home. They ate spaghetti, Nia's kids giggling, Kiana's son kicking like he felt the warmth. For a moment the gavel, the slur, the guards faded, and Kiana let herself believe she'd won a piece of her life back. But Marcus's office wasn't empty after she left. Nate, his paralegal, a wiry kid with shifty eyes, stayed late, his phone glowing as he texted Voss's clerk. He'd heard everything, the tape, the logs, the appeal, and for $500, he spilled it all. Voss didn't. Blink, his orders sharp, hit her where it hurts. That night, as Kiana slept on Nia's couch, a brick crashed through the living room window, glass exploding across the carpet. Nia screamed, kids crying, as Kiana jolted awake, her heart slamming. The brick lay heavy, a note taped tight. Drop. The case or the baby pays. Kiana's hands shook, untying it, the words scrawled in red, each letter a blade. She ran outside, barefoot, scanning the dark, but the street was empty, only taillights fading fast. Nia clutched her kids, her voice trembling, begging Kiana to stop, to run, to hide. But Kiana's eyes burned, the note crumpling in her fist. Voss wasn't just after her. He wanted her family broken, her son erased before he drew breath. She called Marcus, her voice steady despite the fear. He cursed, promising to trace the brick, but Kiana's phone buzzed again before she hung up. An email from the hospital, cold, final. Her termination was official. Ethical violations cited. No appeal allowed. She stared at the screen, her nurse's life, years of night shifts saving strangers, torched in a sentence. Voss's hand was everywhere, his smirk alive in the glass at her feet, the note's threat, the job she'd never get back. Kiana sank to the couch, Nia's kids quiet now, their eyes wide. She touched her belly, her son's kick faint but fierce like he knew the war she fought. The logs, the tape, Marcus's fight. They'd gotten her bail, but Voss had struck harder, aiming for her blood, her kin. She couldn't stay here, couldn't. Risk Nia's house, her kids' sleep, but running meant letting Voss win, letting his lies bury her sons tomorrow. Kiana's jaw clenched, her nurse's hand steady as she folded the note, tucking it into her pocket. That brick came from somewhere. Voss's men, his holes, his iron veil. She'd find them, follow the trail, and shove their threat back in. Their faces. The hospital was done, Elaine a traitor, but the town had eyes, ears, and loose lips. She'd start where Voss's dogs drank, where they bragged, where they thought she'd never dare go. Kiana Wells crouched in Nia's backyard, the night thick with Georgia humidity, her fingers tracing the brick's jagged edge, still lying where it had crashed through the window hours ago. The note, "Drop the case, or the baby pays," burned. In her pocket, its red ink a bloodstain on her mind. Her hospital job was gone, her apartment gutted, her bail a fragile thread against Judge Voss's chokehold. 7 months pregnant, her son's kicks felt like a clock ticking, each one a plea to fight harder. Ironvale's streets whispered Voss's name, his smirk alive in every threat, but Kiana wasn't running. That brick came from hands. Hands that drank and bragged, and she'd find them where Ironvale's underbelly pulsed. A dive bar called Rusty's, a haunt for cops and cronies who served Voss's will. She borrowed Nia's jacket, its hood shadowing her face, and slipped into B. The night, her sneakers soft on cracked asphalt. Rusty's squatted 5 miles away, a neon scar in Ironvale's West End, where pickup trucks crowded the lot and rebel flags hung like trophies. Kiana's pulse hammered, her belly tight, but her nurse's nerve, steady through gunshot wounds and heart attacks, kept her moving. She'd heard talk at the hospital, orderlies muttering about Rusty's as the spot where deals went down, where Voss's men swapped cash and curses. If she could catch one loose tongue, one slip about the brick, she'd have a thread to pull, a way to tie Voss to the terror carving up her life. The bar's door creaked, spilling cigarette smoke and country twang into the dark. Kiana eased. Inside, her hood low, eyes scanning the haze. Men in flannel and badges leaned over beers, their laughs sharp, eyes flicking her way but not lingering. She was just another shadow in a place that thrived on them. She slid into a booth, its vinyl cracked, and ordered a soda, her hands trembling as she faked a sip. Her phone, tucked in her sleeve, was recording, its mic hungry for truth. Across the room, a thick-necked man in a trucker hat held court, his voice loud, slurring about a job well done. Kiana's breath caught. His knuckles were scraped, fresh like he'd gripped a brick too tight. She leaned closer, her belly pressed against the table, catching his words through the bar's din. He bragged about a message delivered, a window. Smashed, a black woman taught her place. His buddies laughed, one clapping his back, another muttering Voss's name like a prayer. Kiana's blood ran hot, her fingers tightening on the phone as it drank every word. He described the note, the red ink, the fear he'd smelled in the air. It was him, her family's terror, her son's threat, spilling from his lips like a trophy. She stopped recording, her hands steady now, her nurse's precision locking in. This was gold, better than the logs, a direct line to Voss's dirty hands. Kiana slipped out, the bar's noise fading as she hit the lot, her phone uploading the audio to a cloud Marcus could access. She texted him, "Got something big, check." The link, her fingers flying, hope sparking despite the weight in her chest. Ironvale's blogs would eat this up, maybe even the Atlanta papers, and Voss's name would stink louder than ever. She walked fast, sticking to shadows, the lots. Gravel crunching underfoot. Her cab was gone, ditched to avoid tails. So she headed for a bus stop 2 miles out, her eyes scanning every headlight. The audio was live now, pinging across X, hashtags like Iron Vale. Injustice trending as locals shared it, strangers cheering. Her name! Kiana's lips twitched, a ghost of a smile. She'd struck back, drawn blood, and for a moment she felt taller than Voss's courthouse. Then tires screamed, a pickup truck swerving from the dark, its grille gleaming like teeth. Kiana dove, her belly slamming the dirt as it roared past, inches from her legs. The truck spun, blocking her path, its headlights blinding, pinning her against a chain-link fence by a ditch. Her breath caught, her son kicking wild as the driver's door swung open. A man stepped out, the trucker hat from the bar, his scraped, knuckles flexing, a slur spitting from his lips. Nigger who don't learn. He held a gas can, liquid sloshing, the stink of fuel cutting the air. Kiana scrambled, her hands scraping gravel, but the fence trapped her, its wires biting her back. He laughed, dousing her sneakers, the hem of Nia's jacket, gasoline pooling under her. Her phone buzzed, notifications from the audio spread, but it felt distant, useless against the match he flicked from his pocket. Kiana's mind raced, her nurse's calm cracking. Her son, her boy, not yet born, couldn't end like this. She lunged, low and fast, her shoulder slamming his knee, pain shooting through her but toppling him. The match fell unlit as he cursed, his gas can clattering. Kiana ran, her belly slowing her, fuel-soaked shoes slipping, but fear drove her. Past the ditch, into a weedy lot where the truck couldn't follow. She collapsed behind a rusted shed, her chest heaving, the bar's neon a faint glow in the distance. The truck revved, circling, its driver shouting her name like a hunter's call, but he didn't find her. Kiana's hands shook, shielding. Her son, gasoline stinging her skin, the slur echoing louder than the engine's roar. Voss's man had come for blood, not just a scare, and the audio hadn't stopped him. It had lit a fuse. Her victory, those trending posts, felt hollow now. A spark that drew a bigger beast. Iron Vale wasn't just Voss's town, it was his army and Kiana was its prey. She checked her phone, battery low, the audio still spreading, comments piling up. Justice for Kiana, burn Voss down. But the trucker's face, his match, his gas, burned brighter in her skull. She couldn't go back to Nia's, couldn't risk another brick or worse. Marcus was too far, the streets too open. Her eyes fell on a flyer, half torn, stuck to the shed. Community Center, open forum, speak your truth. It was tomorrow, a place where Iron Vale's black voices gathered, where she could rally help, turn her audio into a movement. Voss's men wouldn't dare touch her there, not in a crowd, not with eyes watching. Or would they? Was Kiana's bold move the spark to topple Voss, or did she just paint a bigger target on her back? Drop a comment with number 1 if you think she's got the guts to keep fighting. Then smash like and subscribe to see if Iron Vale's streets swallow her whole. Has a moment of hope ever turned into a trap for you? Comment number 1 if you felt that sting, and hit that like button to stay with Kiana's war, because this fight's about to explode. Can she turn a crowd into her shield, or will Voss's claws tear through them all? Kiana Wells limped through Iron Vale's pre-dawn streets, gasoline fumes clinging to her clothes, her sneakers still damp from the trucker's attempt to burn her alive. Her phone, nearly dead, buzzed with notifications. Her barroom audio of Voss's goon confessing to the brick attack had gone viral, hashtags like Iron Vale Injustice lighting up X. But the victory tasted sour, her belly tight with her son's frantic kicks, each one a reminder of the match that almost ended them. Both 7 months pregnant, she was a target in Judge Voss's town, his smirk a shadow in every headlight. The community center flyer, crumpled in her pocket, was her last play, a chance to turn Iron Vale's black voices into a shield, to make her audio a weapon Voss couldn't dodge. She couldn't go to Nia's, not with her sister's kids at risk, and Marcus's office felt too exposed after the bar. The center was her stand, her fight, her hope. She found a diner, its neon flickering, and slipped inside to wait out the hours, nursing a decaf coffee. her hands trembling as she dried her shoes with napkins. The waitress, a black woman with tired eyes, didn't ask questions, just slid her a free biscuit, a quiet nod of understanding. Kiana ate, her son's weight grounding her, the audio's buzz a faint hum against the diner's jukebox. By noon, she'd cleaned up in the bathroom, her reflection showing bruised knuckles and a fire that refused to dim. The community center was 3 miles away, a brick building in Iron Vale's Black Quarter, where rallies drew crowds tired of red lines and raids. Kiana walked, hood up, avoiding cop cars, her nurse's grit pushing past the ache in her legs. The center buzzed when she arrived, folding chairs packed with neighbors, their murmurs a mix of anger and hope. Posters lined the walls, "Vote out Voss, Justice Now," next to kids' crayon drawings of better days. Kiana's chest loosened, the crowd's warmth a balm after the trucker's slur, his gasoline stink. She spotted familiar faces, Mr. Leroy, who'd fixed her car for free, Aisha, who'd shared her shift notes at the hospital. They nodded, eyes fierce like they'd heard her audio and felt its weight. The organizer, a pastor named Ruth, called Kiana to the mic, her voice booming through the room. "This sister needs us," Ruth said. And Kiana stepped up, her hands steady, the logs and phone in her jacket, ready to lay it all bare. Her voice cracked at first, then grew sharp, cutting through the room's hum. She told them everything. Voss's gavel stealing 5 years for a theft she didn't commit, her whistleblowing on Travis's drug scam, the logs proving his guilt, the brick through Naya's window, the trucker's match at Rusty's. She played the audio, the goon's voice snarling about teaching her a lesson, and the crowd gasped, fists clenching, some shouting Voss's name like a curse. Kiana's eyes burned, her son kicking as she spoke of him, her boy who deserved a world better than this. She asked for a petition, signatures to oust Voss, to flood the state with their rage. Hands shot up, pens scribbling, and by the end 10,000 names filled the sheets, a roar rising as they chanted her name, Kiana, Kiana, like she'd lit a spark Iron Vale couldn't snuff. She stood taller, her nurse's heart pounding, feeling unstoppable for the first time since the courthouse. The crowd's cheers drowned the slur, the gavel, the gasoline sting. Ruth hugged her, promising to mail the petition to Atlanta, to make Voss's bosses feel the heat. Kiana exhaled, her son's kicks softer now, like he sensed the tide turning. She imagined Marcus filing the appeal, the logs and audio cracking, Voss's lies, her boy born free. But then the lights flickered, a sharp buzz cutting the cheers. The room plunged dark, gasps rippling, and Kiana's pulse spiked, her hands shielding her belly as she backed toward Ruth. A projector hummed, its beam slicing the dark, splashing light on a makeshift screen. Footage flickered. Kiana's face grainy but clear, her voice distorted, confessing to stealing drugs, laughing about fooling the hospital. The crowd froze, murmurs turning sour, eyes narrowing as they stared at her. Kiana's stomach dropped, her voice shouting, "It's fake, it's not me," but the audio looped, her fake laugh louder, mocking their trust. A bottle sailed from the back, shattering near her feet, glass spraying her shins. Boos erupted, names she'd trusted, Leroy, Aisha, spitting venom, calling her a liar, a traitor. Kiana's knees buckled, the petition sheets fluttering to the floor, signatures meaningless now. Then Voss's voice boomed, not from the projector but outside, a megaphone's blare slicing through the walls. "Kiana Wells is a danger," he declared, her riot inciting violence, endangering Iron Vale. Tires screeched, boots thumped, and the center's doors rattled as cops stormed in, their flashlights blinding, batons raised. The crowd scattered, some shoving Kiana, others fleeing, her name a curse again. Ruth grabbed her arm, pulling her toward a side exit, but a cop's radio crackled. "Arrest her, riot charge, Voss's orders." Kiana twisted free, her logs slipping. From her jacket, trampled under boots as she ran, her belly slowing, her pain shooting through her hips. She hit a hallway, posters tearing under her hands, the crowd's boos chasing her like knives. The cops were close, their shouts sharp, but Kiana found a fire door, its alarm dead, and burst into an alley, garbage stink mixing with her sweat. She crouched behind a dumpster, her breath ragged, her son's kicks frantic as flashlights swept past. The projector's lie, Voss's voice, the crowd's turn. It was all his work, his fist smashing her spark before it caught. 10,000 signatures, her people's roar, gone in a flicker, replaced by cuffs waiting to snap. Kiana's hands shook, her nurse's calm fraying, but her eyes burned, fixed on the center's glow fading behind her. She'd come for a shield, found a trap, Voss's smirk alive in the fake video, the megaphone's threat. Her audio had shaken him, and this was his answer. Not a brick, not a match, but a town turned against her. Black voices twisted to echo his hate. She couldn't go to Marcus, not with cops swarming, couldn't trust the streets, the center, anyone. But the video wasn't magic. It came from somewhere, someone with tech, with Voss's leash. Kiana's jaw clenched, her fingers brushing her phone, its battery clinging to life. She'd find the source, rip Voss's lie bare, but iron veils. Air felt heavier now, like it knew she'd bleed before she won. Kiana Wells huddled in an iron veil alley, her breath shallow. The dumpster's stink masking the gasoline still clinging to her shoes from the barroom ambush. Her son's kicks pulsed against her 7-month belly, a lifeline after the community. Center's collapse. 10,000 signatures trashed. Her people's cheers twisted into boos by a fake video of her confessing to theft. Judge Voss's megaphone had branded her a rioter, cops chasing her like prey, their batons hungry for her black skin. She'd escaped, but Iron Veil's air felt like a fist, Voss's smirk alive in every shadow. Her phone down to 5%. Battery held no answers, just fading notifications from her viral bar audio, now drowned by the projector's lie. Kiana's hands shook, her nurse's grit fraying, but she knew one thing. That video wasn't magic. Someone built it, someone with Voss's leash, and she'd tear their mask off to save her son. She moved at dawn, sticking to back streets, her hood low, every siren spiking her pulse. Marcus Tate's office was her only haven, the lawyer who'd whispered hope against Voss's gavel. Her legs ached, her belly heavy, but fear drove her past boarded shops and cracked curbs to the strip mall where his sign flickered. Marcus was there, his laptop glowing, eyes sunken like he'd fought. His own war overnight. Kiana locked the door, her voice hoarse as she spilled the center's chaos. The crowd's turn, the fake footage. Voss's voice declaring her a danger. Marcus cursed, his fist hitting the desk, but his eyes sharpened when she mentioned the video. It was too clean, he said, too slick for a courthouse hack. He pulled up X, scrolling posts about her, and found a lead, a pixelated screenshot of the footage, watermarked with a logo, Carver Tech. Kiana's breath caught. Reed Carver. Iron Veil's billionaire, owned half the town's jobs, his tech firm spitting out apps and cameras that watched every corner. Marcus dug deeper, his fingers flying, unearthing Carver's ties to Voss. Campaign cash, private dinners, a shared golf club where deals were whispered. Kiana's mind raced, her nurse's logic clicking. Carver's firm could fake a video, like that morph her voice, twist her face all to bury her for Voss. Marcus nodded, his jaw tight, and handed her a burner phone, its screen cold against her palm. She'd never hacked before, but desperation was a teacher. Marcus talked her through it. Basic code, a backdoor into Carver Tech's public server, enough to sniff for proof. Kiana worked, her fingers clumsy but driven, sweat beading as she sat, cross-legged, her belly pressing her thighs. The burner pinged, pulling texts from a Carver Tech exec, orders to build the video, timestamps matching the center's attack, and Voss's name in every line. Kiana's pulse roared, her son kicking, like he felt the win. This was it. Proof Carver was Voss's puppeteer, his tech the knife that cut her community's trust. Marcus grinned, rare and fierce, and sent the texts to a reporter he trusted, a woman at the Atlanta Star who'd chewed out Iron Veil's elites before. Kiana watched the story break online, Carver Tech's stock tanking, ex-posts screaming betrayal. Carver lies. Kiana truth. Her name rose again, not as a rioter but a fighter, and she cheered, her voice raw, her hands cradling her son like they'd already won. But Iron Veil didn't sleep, and Voss's allies didn't bend. Kiana left Marcus's office, dusk settling, her burner phone dead, her real one off to dodge trackers. She headed for an OB/GYN checkup, her first since the hospital fired her, a free clinic 10 blocks away. Her heart lifted, picturing her son's ultrasound, his heartbeat a rhythm against Voss's chaos. She walked in, the waiting room sterile, a nurse calling her name too fast, like they'd expected her. The doctor, a thin man with cold eyes, led her to an exam room, his smile thin as paper. Kiana lay back, her belly exposed, waiting for the wand's hum. But the doctor's questions turned sharp. Her job, her case, her plans. Her skin prickled, her nurse's instincts screaming. And then he stepped out, locking the door with a click. Kiana sat up, her heart slamming, and tried the knob. Stuck. The doctor's voice murmured outside, low, to someone on a phone. She caught Voss's name, her blood chilling, and pressed her ear to the wall. The clinic wasn't free. It was Carver's, bought last month, a trap to catch her when the texts hit. The doctor's orders were clear. Lose her baby's records, claim neglect, let the state take her son at birth. Kiana's knees buckled, her breath a sob, but her hands moved, nurse-fast, rifling his desk. She found a file, her name, forged notes, a plan to drug her next visit. She stuffed it in her jacket, her son kicking wild, and pried a window, its latch rusted but giving way. She climbed out, dropping to an alley, her belly aching, the file sharp against her ribs. Sirens wailed, distant but closing, and Kiana ran, her sneakers pounding gravel, Ironvale's dusk swallowing her. She reached Marcus's office again, breathless, handing him the file, her voice shaking but fierce. He cursed, flipping pages, and called his reporter, leaking the clinic plot. By midnight, the Star ran it, Carver's scheme exposed, the clinic shuttered, Voss's name tied to medical sabotage. Kiana exhaled, her hands on her son, believing for a moment she'd broken their spine. But Carver didn't blink. His empire shook, but his claws reached deeper. Kiana crashed at a motel, too scared for Nia's, her sister's kids already scarred by bricks. She woke to her phone buzzing, texts from an unknown number, her face, her motel's address, wanted, in red. She ran to the window, heart pounding, and saw them, drones 3 buzzing low, their cameras glinting like eyes. Flyers dropped, fluttering to the lot, each one her photo, her name, a bounty Carver's cash had bought. Ironvale's hunters were loose, and Kiana's victory had only sharpened their blades. Did Kiana's strike at Carver light a path to justice, or did she just wake a bigger beast? Drop a comment with number 1 if you think she's still got. Fight left, then hit like and subscribe to see if she outruns this billionaire's wrath. Ever had your trust in a system, like healthcare, shattered by lies? Comment number 1 if that hits home, and smash that like button to stay with Kiana's battle, because this war's about to cut deeper. What happens when the place meant to save her son becomes Voss's next weapon? Kiana Wells slipped through Ironvale's twilight, her pulse a drumbeat, the memory of Carver's drones buzzing like vultures, dropping flyers with her face, searing her mind. Her belly, 7 months heavy, ached with her son's kicks, each one a plea to keep running. The leaked texts tying Reed Carver to Voss's fake video had rocked his tech empire, but the billionaire struck back, banning her from her OBGYN clinic, leaving her baby's heartbeat unchecked. Ironvale's streets were a minefield, cops and bounty hunters sniffing her scent, but Kiana's nurse's grit burned hotter than fear. A free clinic tucked in the city's black quarter was her last shot for care, a place Carver's millions hadn't touched. She moved fast, hood up, the stolen file from Carver's plot, forged notes to steal her son, pressed against her ribs, a reminder that Voss's war wasn't just on her, but her boy. The clinic was a squat building, its paint peeling, a neon cross flickering above the door. Kiana stepped inside, the air sharp with antiseptic, her sneakers squeaking on cracked linoleum. The waiting room held tired faces, mothers, elders, kids clutching toys, all black, all Ironvale's forgotten. A nurse called her name, her smile warm, and Kiana exhaled, her shoulders easing for the first time since Naya's window shattered. The exam room was small, posters of smiling babies curling at the edges. The doctor, a grey-haired man named Dr. Ellis, shook her hand, his grip steady, his eyes kind behind wire glasses. He asked about her pregnancy, her cramps, her stress, and Kiana answered, her voice soft, picturing her son's ultrasound, his tiny hands waving through the blur. She lay back, gel cold on her belly, the wand's hum a promise of life. Dr. Ellis moved it gently, his brow furrowing, then smiled. Her boy was strong, heart thumping like a drum. Kiana's eyes stung, relief flooding her, but the doctor's questions shifted, probing deeper. Her job, her case, why she'd left Iron Veil General. Her skin prickled, her nurse's instincts flaring, and then he stepped to the door, his hand lingering on the knob. A click sounded, sharp, the lock snapping shut. Kiana sat up, her heart slamming, the gel smearing her shirt as she swung her legs off the table. Dr. Ellis turned, his kindness gone, his eyes cold as steel. Voss had gotten to him, he said, voice flat. $5,000 to lose her babies, records to brand her a neglectful mother, to let the state snatch her son at birth. Kiana's breath caught, her hands shielding her belly, her son's kicks wild against the betrayal. She lunged for the door, but Ellis blocked it, his arm raised, a syringe glinting in his other hand. Something to calm her, he lied. Something to make this easier. Kiana's nurse's reflexes kicked in, her elbow slamming his wrist, the syringe clattering to the floor. He cursed, grabbing her jacket, but she twisted, her knee driving into his gut, pain shooting through her but dropping him. She rifled his desk, her hands shaking, and found a file. Her name, Voss's orders, a script to fake her neglect, to drug her next visit. She stuffed it in her bra next to Carver's file, her breath ragged as she kicked the window's latch, its frame splintering under her heel. She climbed out, dropping to a back lot, gravel biting her palms, her belly cramping from the fight. Sirens wailed, close like they'd known she'd run. Kiana sprinted, alleys blurring, her sneakers pounding past rusted bins and chain-link fences, iron veils. Dusk a shroud. She reached Marcus Tate's office, her lungs burning, and shoved the clinic file into his hands, her voice breaking as she told him, Ellis's deal, Voss's plan to erase her son. Marcus's eyes darkened, his fingers flipping pages, proof piling up like bullets. He called his Atlanta reporter, leaking the file, and by midnight, the Star ran it. Voss's medical sabotage exposed, the clinic's license yanked. Travis, his nephew, arrested for the drug thefts Kiana had flagged. Kiana sank into a chair, her hands on her son, his kicks softer now, like he felt the win. Travis's cuffs were her doing, her whistleblowing finally biting back, and the clinic's fall meant Voss's grip was slipping. She pictured her boy born free, her nurse's cap back on, Iron Veil's boot off her neck. Marcus nodded, his voice low, saying the state was probing Voss now, maybe enough to bench him. Kiana exhaled, hope flickering, fragile but alive. She couldn't go to Naya's, not with drones circling, so Marcus sent her to a safe house, a cousin's place 10 miles out. She caught a cab, her eyes scanning every headlight, believing for a moment she'd turned the tide. But Voss didn't flinch, and his allies didn't sleep. Kiana woke at dawn, the safe house quiet, her sister's number flashing on her phone. Nia's voice was a scream. Her house was burning, flames licking the roof, her kids coughing through. Smoke. Kiana's heart stopped, her cab's tires screeching as she raced back, Iron Veil's skyline blurring. She reached Nia's street, fire trucks idle, cops smirking as flames roared. Nia clutched her kids, safe but shaking, pointing to shadows fleeing, Voss's goons, their gas cans glinting, their laughter a slur in the air. The house was ash, Kiana's last anchor gone, her sister's eyes begging her to stop, to run, to save her son before Voss burned them all. Kiana stood frozen, embers stinging her face, the clinic file useless against this. Voss hadn't just struck. He'd torched her family's home, her sister's safety, her boy's future, all because she dared expose his nephew, his lies. The sirens, the smirks, the flames, they were his smirk, his gavel, his war on her blackness. She couldn't stay, couldn't breathe here, but running meant letting Voss win, letting her son grow up under his boot. Her hands clenched, the files. Wait, a reminder. She'd hit Voss and he'd bled. But his next swing would be worse, and Iron Veil's ashes promised it was coming. Kiana Wells stood amidst the ashes of Nia's burned-out home, embers stinging her eyes, her 7-month belly tight with her son's desperate kicks. The flames had swallowed her sister's life. Kids' toys melted, photos charred, Voss's goons vanishing with gas cans and slurs. Iron Vale's cops smirked from their cruisers. No cuffs for the arsonists, just another black family crushed under Judge Voss's boot. Kiana's hands shook, clutching the clinic file that exposed his plan to steal her baby. But it wasn't enough. Travis, his nephew, was in jail, her whistleblowing finally biting. But Voss's smirk lived in the smoke, promising worse. Naya and her kids were safe, holed up with a cousin. But Kiana couldn't follow. Her presence was a beacon for Voss's wrath. She needed a knockout, proof to bury him, and his old law office, a dusty relic of his early deals, was her only lead. She hitched a ride to a motel, its neon buzzing 10 miles from Iron Vale's heart. The clerk didn't blink at her soot-streaked jacket, just slid a key for cash. Kiana locked the door, her breath shallow, the clinic file and bar audio her only weapons. She showered, washing off ash and gasoline's ghost, her son's kicks grounding her as she planned. Voss's office was downtown, boarded up since he'd taken the bench, but whispers at the hospital, orderlies swapping stories, said he'd left files there, dirty secrets too hot for his courthouse safe. If Kiana could find them, tie him to the drug ring, the brick, the flames, she'd have a blade to cut his throne. Her nurse's logic clicked, her fear a dull roar she'd long learned to mute. Night fell, Iron Vale's skyline a bruise against the stars. Kiana slipped out, her hood low, a flashlight and crowbar tucked in her bag. Tools borrowed from Nia's garage before it burned. She took alleys, avoiding cop lights, her belly slowing her but her grit pushing through. The office was a brick. Husk windows dark, a faded sign reading Voss and Sons peeling above the door. Kiana's pulse hammered, her eyes scanning for cameras, but the street was dead. Iron Vale's pulse faint here. She pried a side window, its frame splintering, and climbed inside, her sneakers crunching glass. Dust choked the air, shelves sagging with boxes, papers yellowed like old skin. Her flashlight swept, her hands rifling folders, her son's kicks urging haste. She found it in a locked drawer, the crowbar's bite popping it open. A ledger, handwritten, Voss's scrawl listing payments to a group called Iron Dawn. Names jumped out. Cops, councilmen, even Carver's firm, tied to dates matching her case, Naya's fire, the bar attack. Cash for bricks, for gas, for lies, and a chilling note. Cleanse Iron Vale, black blight out. Kiana's blood ran cold, her fingers trembling as she stuffed the ledger in her bag. Proof Voss wasn't just a judge but a warlord, his hate a machine grinding her people down. She snapped photos, her phone's flash a risk, and sent them to Marcus, her text simple, got him, leak it. Kiana slipped out, the street still empty, and mailed copies to every newsroom in Georgia from a 24-hour post office, her hands steady, nurse precise. By dawn, the story broke. Atlanta Star, Savannah Times, ex-ablaze with Iron Dawn exposed. Voss's name poison. Iron Vale's council called an emergency vote, his recall gaining steam, signatures piling like bricks against his empire. Kiana watched. From the motel, Nia's kids giggling over a cartoon, her sister's eyes soft with hope. She hugged Nia, her son kicking like he felt the shift, Iron Vale's air lighter, like Voss's grip might snap. She pictured her boy born free, her nurse's life reclaimed, the gavel's echo fading to nothing. But Voss didn't bend, and his allies didn't sleep. Kiana's motel door splintered at midnight, a bounty hunter crashing through, his shotgun gleaming, his boots heavy on the carpet. $50,000, he growled, Carver's cash on her head, dead or alive. Kiana dove, her belly slamming the floor, Nia's scream piercing the dark as the kids cried. The hunter's eyes were cold, his voice a slur. Nigger running out of holes. Kiana crawled, her bag with the ledger clutched tight, her nurse's, calm fraying as the shotgun's barrel swung her way. Nia threw a lamp, glass shattering, buying seconds, and Kiana rolled under the bed, her breath a sob, her son's kicks frantic against the hunter's boots. He kicked the bed frame, wood cracking, but sirens wailed outside. Marcus's leak had tipped a clean cop, a rare one, who'd tracked the bounty. The hunter cursed, bolting as lights flashed, his shotgun clattering. Kiana crawled out, her hands shaking, Nia's arms pulling her close, the kid's sobs a knife in her chest. The ledger was safe, but the hunter's words burned, dead or alive. Voss hadn't just struck, he'd put a price on her blood, her boy's breath, her blackness a bounty in Iron Vale's streets. She couldn't stay, couldn't risk Nia again. But the news screamed her win. Voss's recall vote was hours away, her ledger the blade that cut him. Kiana's eyes burned, her jaw clenching as she kissed Nia's kids, their tears wet on her cheeks. The hunter was gone, but Carver's cash would buy more, and Voss's hate didn't die easy. She needed to end this, to face the snake behind the snake, Carver himself, his mansion a fortress of secrets. The ledger named him, tied him to iron. Dawn and Kiana's nurse's heart knew he'd talk, brag, spill if she played it right. She slipped out, Iron Vale's dawn cold, her son's kicks her only map, leading her to a fight she might not walk away from. Did Kiana's ledger strike a death blow to Voss, or did she just light a fuse for worse? Drop a comment with number 1. If you're rooting for her to keep swinging, then hit like and subscribe to see if she outruns Carver's dogs. Ever felt like exposing truth only made the target on your back bigger? Comment number 1 if that resonates, and smash that like button to stay with Kiana's war, because this fight's about to boil over. Can she bluff her way into Carver's lair, or will his walls crush her first? Kiana Wells slipped through Iron Vale's pre-dawn chill, her heart pounding, the motel's splintered door and the bounty hunter's shotgun still vivid in her mind. $50,000, Reed Carver's blood money, had marked her for death. Judge Voss's hate now a price on her black life. Her 7-month belly ached with her son's kicks, each one a spark against the fear, her hands clutching the ledger that tied Voss to Iron Dawn's racist purge. The news screamed her win. Voss's recall vote loomed, her break-in shaking Iron Vale's core. But a hunter's boot had grazed her, and Carver's shadow loomed larger than Voss's smirk. Kiana's nurse's grit burned, her eyes fixed on Carver's mansion, a glass and steel fortress 10 miles out where he pulled strings to crush her. If she could get inside, make him talk, she'd have the blade to end this war. She ditched the motel, Nia's kids safe with a cousin, her sister's tears a weight Kiana couldn't carry. Iron Vale's streets were a trap, cops, drones, eyes, everywhere. So she moved fast, her hood up, the ledger's photos on her phone, her only shield. Carver's estate sprawled in the hills, gated, cameras glinting like predators. Kiana's breath hitched, her nurse's logic spinning a plan. She'd pose as a reporter, a bold lie to slip past his guards. She'd overheard hospital gossip about Carver's ego, his love for press, and bet he'd bite. At a gas station, she swiped a notepad and a cheap blazer, her hands steady despite the cramps rippling her belly. She called his office from a payphone, her voice smooth, pitching, an exclusive on his comeback after the leaked texts. His assistant bought it, setting a noon slot. Kiana reached the gate, her sneakers scuffing gravel, the blazer tight over her pregnancy. The guard waved her through, his radio crackling, unaware of the phone in her pocket, recording every sound. The mansion's foyer gleamed, marble floors, chandeliers dripping wealth, Carver waiting in a study, his suit crisp, grey hair slicked, eyes cold as slate. He smirked, offering coffee, his voice oily, probing why she cared about Iron Vale's troubles. Kiana played along, her notepad scribbled with fake questions, her heart hammering as she steered to Voss, the texts, the video that turned her community against her. Carver leaned back, his ego loosening his tongue, and admitted it. His firm built the video, funded Iron Dawn, all to cleanse Iron Vale's black neighborhoods for profit. Voss just a pawn in his game. Kiana's blood roared, her phone catching. Every word, her nurse's calm masking the rage. She pressed, asking about the clinic, the drones, and Carver laughed, bragging how he'd banned her care, sent flyers to hunt her, because black women like her bred trouble. Her son kicked, hard, like he heard the venom, and Kiana's fingers twitched, wanting to lunge, but she held still, her recorder purring. She thanked him, voice tight, and left, his handshake slimy, his eyes blind to her weapon. Outside, she uploaded the tape to Marcus's cloud, texting him, "Carver's done. Leak it now." Her breath shallow as she jogged to a bus stop. Iron Vales. Hills fading behind her. The tape hit X like lightning. Wangsha Carver confessed, trending by dusk. newsrooms screaming. Atlanta Star, CNN, even international feeds. Carver's board called an emergency vote, ousting him as CEO, his stock crashing harder than after the texts. Iron Vale's streets buzzed, protests swelling outside his gates. Kiana's name a chant again, not rioter, but warrior. She hid in a diner, watching the fallout on a cracked TV, her hands cradling her son, his kicks softer like he sensed the tide turning. Marcus texted, "Tapes with feds, Voss's recall is tomorrow," and Kiana smiled, her nurse's heart daring to hope, picturing her boy born under a freer sky, Voss's gavel shattered, Carver's empire dust. But Carver didn't kneel, and his wrath burned hotter than Voss's. Kiana slipped back to her motel, the same dingy room, its curtains drawn tight. She flipped on the TV, expecting more protests, but her face stared back, grainy, labeled terrorist in red. Carver's last play, a fake FBI alert, doctored texts claiming she'd bombed his firm, her audio twisted to sound like threats. Iron Vale's news ate it up, anchors spitting her name, ex-posts flipping. Kiana lies burying her truth. Her phone buzzed, Marcus's voice frantic, "Get out, they're hunting you." But sirens wailed close and choppers roared overhead, their spotlights slicing the motel's lot like knives. Kiana grabbed her bag, the ledger and clinic file inside, her belly cramping as she ran, her sneakers slipping on gravel. Iron Vale's night was alive, red and blue lights flashing, choppers buzzing low, their blades a scream in her ears. She ducked into an alley, her breath ragged, the terrorist label a noose tighter than Voss's gavel. Carver hadn't just struck, he'd turned her into America's enemy, her blackness a weapon to justify her death. Her son kicked wild like he knew the stakes, and Kiana's jaw clenched, her nurse's hand steady despite the fear. She couldn't go to Marcus, couldn't trust the streets, but the tape was out, feds listening, and Carver's confession was her last card. She'd play it even if Iron Vale burned her first. Kiana Wells tore through Iron Vale's alleys, her lungs burning, choppers roaring overhead, their spotlights carving the night like blades. Reed Carver's fake terrorist alert had painted her face across every screen, her blackness twisted into their national threat, her 7-month belly a weight slowing her escape. Her son's kicks were frantic, her hands clutching the ledger and clinic file, proof of Judge Voss's hate empire Iron Dawn. The tape of Carver confessing his cleanse had ousted him, sparked protests, but his final lie, branding her, "Hey Bomber," had turned Iron Vale into a hunting ground. Kiana's nurse's grit was all she had, her eyes darting for cover, Marcus Tate's safe house her only shot. 10 miles out, a cousin's basement, it was a flicker of safety in Voss's war, but her cramps warned time was slipping. Her boy was coming, and Iron Vale wanted her blood. She ditched her phone, its signal a beacon, and flagged a cab, her hood low, cash from Nia's stash buying silence. The driver didn't blink, weaving through back roads, choppers fading as Iron Vale's skyline shrank. The safe house was a sagging rancher, its paint chipped, curtains drawn tight. Marcus met her at the door, his eyes bloodshot, laptop glowing. With news, Carver's tape had hit the feds, Voss's recall vote set for dawn. Kiana exhaled, her hands shaking as she handed him the ledger, its pages heavy with Iron Dawn's sins. Marcus's jaw tightened, his fingers flying, uploading the ledger to his reporter. The Atlanta Star already drafting a bombshell. Voss's hate group exposed, his bench crumbling. Kiana sank onto a couch, her belly cramping, her son's kicks. Softer, like he felt the shift. Marcus worked, his voice low, promising feds were moving, raiding Voss's home, seizing files. By midnight, X lit up. Voss finished trending, protests swelling outside the courthouse, Iron Vale's Black Quarter, chanting Kiana's name. A news alert flashed, Voss suspended, his gavel stripped pending trial. Kiana's chest loosened, her nurse's heart daring to hope, picturing her son born free, her fight carving a path. But then pain ripped through her, sharp, her belly tightening, contractions, early fierce. She gasped, gripping the couch, Marcus's eyes wide as he grabbed water, towels, a phone to call a midwife. Kiana breathed, her training kicking in, timing the cramps, her son closer than she'd planned, Iron Veil's claws too near. She lay back, sweat beading, Marcus's cousin, Lena, rushing in, her hands steady, a retired nurse who'd seen worse. Kiana focused, her voice hoarse, pushing through pain, but then the TV flickered, its volume spiking. Voss's face filled the screen, not cuffed but free, his voice booming. Not from a studio, but Iron Veil's alert system, hacked, screaming her name. Kiana Wells, terrorist, hiding at 47 Maple Lane, the safe house, her exact address. Kiana's. Blood chilled, her contraction pausing as tires screeched outside, shouts rising, slurs cutting the air. Nigger, traitor, kill her. The window shattered, a rock thudding the floor, and Kiana scrambled, pain searing, her son coming now, no time to run. Marcus barred the door, his voice sharp, yelling for Lena to lock the back. Protesters, no, a mob, swarmed the yard, their torches flickering, faces twisted. Some neighbors she'd known, now Voss's pawns. Kiana crawled to a corner, her belly convulsing, her hands shielding her son as boots thumped closer, the door buckling. Marcus grabbed a bat, his eyes fierce, swinging at shadows as glass rained, the mob's chants a roar. Burn her out, end. Her line. Kiana's breath hitched, her nurse's calm cracking, but she pushed, pain blinding, Lena's voice guiding her. Breathe, girl, he's almost here. The door splintered, a figure slipping through, not a mob's grunt, but Voss himself. His suit pristine, a pistol gleaming, his smirk alive, colder than ever. He stepped over glass, his voice silk, promising to finish what Carver started. Her son, her fight, her breath, all erased. Kiana screamed, a contraction ripping through, her hands bloody, pushing as Lena caught her boy's head, his cry piercing the chaos. Voss raised the gun, his eyes locked on her, but Marcus lunged, bat swinging, cracking Voss's wrist, the pistol, skidding. Kiana pushed again, her son sliding free, Lena wrapping him in a towel, his wail a spark against the dark. Voss staggered, cursing, but the mob pressed closer, their torches licking the walls, smoke curling as Kiana clutched her boy, his tiny heart thumping against hers. Marcus fought, his bat a blur, holding the door, but Voss slipped to a window, his smirk unbroken, promising she'd never win. Kiana's eyes burned, her son's weight her only anchor, pain fading as she whispered his name. Justice, a vow. Lena pressed a cloth to her brow, her voice steady, urging her to move, but the mob's roar was endless. Voss's hack a death sentence, Iron Veil's hate a tide she couldn't outrun. Her nurse's hands cradled her son, her fight not done, but the smoke thickened, and Voss's shadow lingered, his gun somewhere in the chaos waiting to strike. Kiana Wells gripped her newborn son, Justice, his tiny wails cutting through the smoke as Iron Veil's mob battered the safe house, their torches licking the walls, slurs echoing like gunfire. Nigger, traitor, burn her. Judge Voss stood amid the chaos, his pistol lost but his smirk alive, his promise to end her line a blade in the air. Her belly ached, blood staining her jeans from the birth, her 7-month labor, a miracle snatched from death's jaws. Marcus Tate swung his bat, guarding the splintered door, his cousin Lena pressing a towel to Kiana's brow, urging her to move, to breathe. But the mob's roar was a tide, Voss's hacked alert, her location blasted across Iron Veil, drawing them like wolves. Kiana's nurse's grit held, her hand steady on Justice, his heartbeat a drum against her chest, but her eyes locked on Voss, his suit pristine, his hate unbowed despite his suspension. She crawled, pain searing, dragging. Justice to a closet, its wooden slats a frail shield. Smoke curled, the mob's boots thumping closer, glass shattering as Marcus fought, his grunts a lifeline. Voss stepped forward, his voice silk over steel, vowing her son would never breathe free, her black blood a stain he'd erase. Kiana's scream was swallowed by a contraction's echo, her body spent, but Lena shoved a chair, blocking the closet, buying seconds. Marcus roared, his bat cracking ribs, but Voss dodged, his smirk twisting as he lunged, hands clawing for Justice. Kiana kicked, her heel slamming his shin, pain shooting through her, and Marcus tackled him, pinning Voss to the floor, his bat raised, eyes wild, Then Marcus froze, his voice breaking, not with rage, but something deeper. "Father." Kiana's breath caught, her son's wail fading as Marcus tore his shirt, revealing a birthmark, a jagged star matching Voss's wrist, exposed in the scuffle. He was Voss's son, estranged, hidden, a secret forged in shame. Marcus's hands shook, his bat dropping, and he pulled a DNA report from his jacket, crumpled, real. Decades of hate crimes tied to Voss, his blood in Marcus's veins, his lawyers. Fight a rebellion against that legacy. Kiana's mind reeled, her ally now kin to her enemy, but Marcus turned, his phone out, live streaming to X. Voss's face, the report, Iron Dawn's ledger, all bare for Ironvale to see. The mob paused, torches wavering, phones pinging as Marcus's stream spread, and Vossen trending, the truth a bomb in their hands. Voss thrashed, his smirk gone, spitting denials. Lies, bastard traitor. But Marcus's voice cut deeper, naming dates, deals, murders Voss had buried, his hate group a cancer Ironvale fed. Sirens wailed, not the mob's allies, but feds, tires, screeching as choppers swung low, their lights flooding the yard. Kiana clutched Justice, his cries softening, her nurse's calm returning as agents stormed in, cuffs snapping on Voss, his suit rumpled, his empire ash. Marcus slumped, his eyes on Kiana, a silent apology in the smoke, but her nod was steel. She trusted him, blood or not, and he'd delivered. Kiana wept, Justice's warmth her anchor, his name a vow fulfilled. Voss was down, his gavel broken. Iron Dawn's secret spilled. Feds cleared the mob, their torches snuffed, Ironvale's night quieting as news vans rolled in, Marcus's stream looping on every screen. Kiana's hands trembled, cradling her son, his eyes blinking open, dark. Like hers, a future Voss couldn't steal. She pictured him growing free, her nurse's life reclaimed. Ironvale's boot lifted, but then a red dot danced across her chest, a sniper's laser piercing the closet's slats. Her breath stopped, Justice's wail rising as she dove, the floor hard, her body a shield. Lena gasped, Marcus spinning, but the dot held steady cold. Carver, free on bail, hadn't folded. His cash bought this, a hitman to finish what Voss started. Kiana's heart slammed, her son's cries a knife, her nurse's hands clutching him as the laser tracked her, unwavering. Ironvale's feds dragged Voss out, his cuffs clinking. But the sniper was Carver's ghost, his hate outliving Voss's fall. Kiana's eyes burned, her jaw clenching. She'd broken one monster, but another waited, his aim locked on her boy, her victory a flicker in the crosshairs. Kiana Wells gripped her newborn son, Justice, his tiny wails cutting through the smoke as Ironvale's mob battered the safe house, their torches licking the walls, slurs echoing like gunfire. Nigger, traitor, burn her. Judge Voss stood amid the chaos, his pistol lost but his smirk alive, his promise to end her line a blade in the air. Her belly ached, blood staining her jeans from the birth, her 7-month labor, a miracle snatched from death's jaws. Marcus Tate swung his bat, guarding the splintered door, his cousin Lena pressing a towel to Kiana's brow, urging her to move, to breathe. But the mob's roar was a tide, Voss's hacked alert, her location blasted across Ironvale, drawing them like wolves. Kiana's nurse's grit held, her hand steady on Justice, his heartbeat a drum against her chest, but her eyes locked on Voss, his suit pristine, his hate unbowed despite his suspension. She crawled, pain searing, dragging. Justice to a closet, its wooden slats a frail shield. Smoke curled, the mob's boots thumping closer, glass shattering as Marcus fought, his grunts a lifeline. Voss stepped forward, his voice silk over steel, vowing her son would never breathe free, her black blood a stain he'd erase. Kiana's scream was swallowed by a contraction's echo, her body spent, but Lena shoved a chair, blocking the closet, buying seconds. Marcus roared, his bat cracking ribs, but Voss dodged, his smirk twisting as he lunged, hands clawing for Justice. Kiana kicked, her heels slamming his shin, pain shooting through her, and Marcus tackled him, pinning Voss to the floor, his bat raised, eyes wild. Then Marcus froze, his voice breaking. not with rage, but something deeper. Father. Kiana's breath caught, her son's wail fading as Marcus tore his shirt, revealing a birthmark, a jagged star matching Voss's wrist, exposed in the scuffle. He was Voss's son, estranged, hidden, a secret forged in shame. Marcus's hands shook, his bat dropping, and he pulled a DNA report from his jacket, crumpled, real. Decades of hate crimes tied to Voss, his blood in Marcus's veins, his lawyers. Fight a rebellion against that legacy. Kiana's mind reeled, her ally now kin to her enemy, but Marcus turned, his phone out, live streaming to X. Voss's face, the report, Iron Dawn's ledger, all bare for Ironvale to see. The mob paused, torches wavering, phones pinging as Marcus's stream spread, and a Vossen trending, the truth a bomb in their hands. Voss thrashed, his smirk gone, spitting denials. Lies, bastard traitor, but Marcus's voice cut deeper, naming dates, deals, murders Voss had buried, his hate group a cancer Ironvale fed. Sirens wailed, not the mob's allies, but feds, tires, screeching as choppers swung low, their lights flooding the yard. Kiana clutched Justice, his cries softening, her nurse's calm returning as agents stormed in, cuffs snapping on Voss, his suit rumpled, his empire ash. Marcus slumped, his eyes on Kiana, a silent apology in the smoke, but her nod was steel. She trusted him, blood or not, and he'd delivered. Kiana wept, Justice's warmth her anchor, his name a vow fulfilled. Voss was down, his gavel broken. Iron Dawn's secret spilled. Feds cleared the mob, their torches snuffed, Ironvale's night quieting as news vans rolled in, Marcus's stream looping on every screen. Kiana's hands trembled, cradling her son, his eyes blinking open, dark. Like hers, a future Voss couldn't steal. She pictured him growing free, her nurse's life reclaimed. Ironvale's boot lifted, but then a red dot danced across her chest, a sniper's laser piercing the closet's slats. Her breath stopped, Justice's wail rising as she dove, the floor hard, her body a shield. Lena gasped, Marcus spinning, but the dot held steady cold. Carver, free on bail, hadn't folded. His cash bought this, a hitman to finish what Voss started. Kiana's heart slammed, her son's cries a knife, her nurse's hands clutching him as the laser tracked her, unwavering. Ironvale's feds dragged Voss out, his cuffs clinking. But the sniper was Carver's ghost, his hate outliving Voss's fall. Kiana's eyes burned, her jaw clenching. She'd broken one monster, but another waited, his aim locked on her boy, her victory a flicker in the crosshairs. Kiana's hands shook, Justice's warmth her lifeline as Jamal stood. His rifle dropped, feds closing in, their cuffs ready for him too. He nodded, a ghost of a smile, saying she'd done what he couldn't. Fought Ironvale's beast and won. Her boys tomorrow. Sirens wailed, agents swarming, but Jamal's stream looped, Carver's confession a hammer smashing his fortress, Ironvale's streets roaring with protests. Justice for Kiana, burn it down. Kiana's eyes stung, her nurse's heart swelling, picturing her son free, her fight a spark that lit Ironvale's dark. Marcus helped her stand, Lena wrapping Justice in a blanket, his cries gone, his breath soft against her chest. The feds cleared the safe house, Voss in a van, his smirk dead, Carver's name poison on every tongue. Kiana stepped outside, Ironvale's. Dawn cold, her legs trembling, Justice cradled close, his name a vow she'd kept. Justice not just for her, but for Naya's kids, for Jamal, for every black soul Voss and Carver crushed. The news screamed her win. Voss jailed, Carver's empire dust, Iron Dawn's ledger with the feds, a trial looming to gut their hate. Kiana's breath steadied, her nurse's hands steadying Justice, his eyes dark like hers, a future Voss couldn't touch. She pictured him growing, her cap back on, Ironvale's boot lifted, but a chill crept in, her victory too sharp, too sudden. Marcus's phone buzzed, a leaked email flashing, anonymous, sent to the Star, CC'd to Carver's dead account. Kiana's pulse spiked, her eyes scanning lines that froze her blood. A senator unnamed praising Carver's vision, promising to watch Ironvale's rebirth, dated hours ago, after Voss's cuffs, after Carver's fall. Marcus cursed, his voice low, saying it was bigger than they'd thought. A shadow behind the shadow. Carver's mentor, Voss's puppet master, still free, still plotting. Kiana's jaw clenched, Justice's weight her anchor, her nurse's mind racing, every win, every blow, watched by eyes she'd never seen, a war she'd barely scratched. Ironvale's air thickened, its dawn heavy, protests fading as news vans packed up, feds hauling evidence, Jamal in cuffs, his head high. Kiana stood, her son's breath warm, her fight etched in his name. Justice Wells, born in blood, born to burn Ironvale's lies. She'd broken Voss, toppled Carver, but the senator's email was a whisper, a promise of worse, a beast she couldn't, a name. Her nurse's hands tightened, her resolve steel. She'd fight again for justice, for tomorrow, but Ironvale's shadows stretched long, and Kiana knew her war was far from over. Kiana Wells's journey through Ironvale's crucible offers raw, unflinching lessons about resilience, systemic racism, and the cost of fighting for justice. First, her story screams that courage isn't the absence of fear, but action despite. Yet pregnant and hunted, Kiana faced a racist judge, a billionaire's drones and a sniper's laser, yet birthed her son Justice amid chaos. Her nurse's grit, steady hands in a storm, teaches that inner strength can defy even the vilest oppression. She didn't just survive, she struck back, exposing Voss's hate group and Carver's schemes, proving one voice can rattle a corrupt empire. Second, the tale exposes how racism isn't just slurs or bricks, it's a machine grinding through courts, clinics, and communities. Voss framed Kiana to silence her whistleblowing, Carver turned her town against her with a fake video, and even allies like Elaine buckled under pressure. Every win, bail, viral audio, Voss's arrest, met fiercer retaliation, showing how deep the roots of prejudice twist, especially against black women daring to stand tall. It's a brutal reminder that justice isn't linear. It's a war where victories bleed into new battles. Finally, Kiana's fight reveals the power of unlikely redemption. Jamal, the sniper, flipped from Carver's pawn to her savior, driven by her defiance. Marcus, Voss's own son, wielded truth as a weapon, turning blood ties into betrayal of hate. These twists shout that change can spark from the broken, but the senator's shadow warns that power adapts, lurking beyond each triumph. Kiana named her son Justice not as an end, but a beginning. Her lesson is clear. The fight never stops, and neither should we. So what keeps you pushing when the world swings back harder? Drop a comment with your spark, hit like if Kiana's fire lit something in you, and subscribe to catch more stories of grit tearing through darkness. Share this if you're ready to roar against injustice. Thanks for riding this wild journey with us. Here's to your own battles won, your own justice carved from the ashes.